Technical director has just given me the signal that we're on. So Jesse, what are your thoughts on this Veterans Day, 11/11/2016?
I really like the fact that a lot of restaurants are giving us a free meal. That's kind of exciting. I think I'm going to hit up the ground round. That should be a lot of fun.
Okay, the ground round. Does that include alcoholic beverages or just food?
No, it does not.
Okay. All right. What other restaurants, Jesse James Atkinson, are providing free food or beverages for the veterans?
Well, the Coffee Cat is also giving away free coffee to veterans today.
The Coffee Cat
Yes.
Espresso Bar, where we sit and speak to the whole world.
Our
right
current
now.
location.
Our current location at 104 Margaret Street, Plattsburgh, New York, 12901.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very nice. And if I can catch the attention of the Coffee Cat proprietor, Ms. Patty Waldron, how many free coffees have been distributed to veterans?
Actually, just 2 today.
Just 2 today?
Yeah.
Well,
I'm hoping to see more.
the weather is kind of crummy outside. It's blustery and windy, and White Buffalo is going to go out and sweep the stoop. He's going to move the leaves, so he'll probably signal some veterans maybe to come in. And is there any signage promoting that? Is there any signage? Like a sign saying, "Hey, free coffee for veterans"?
No, no.
Okay. All right. So, all right. That would be any of your coffee beverages.
Yes.
That would be the Copper Canyon. That would be the blueberry blend, as well as the variety of decaf coffees available.
Yeah, whatever's available. I mean, the smoothies.
Smoothie.
Yeah,
Well,
you can
smoothie
write.
and a coffee, they're
Now,
two different
now,
stories.
Bill, had you been a veteran, you'd have had yours for free.
My smoothie?
Yeah.
Well, it all worked out though. I had a smoothie in essence for free because I had my frequent flyer Coffee Cat card, which looks something just like this, blank. But if you're a frequent
director
flyer,
asked me to sit
if
by
you're-
you, Bill,
If you're around
if you don't
enough
mind.
and you get this thing stamped for every $1.50 small cup of coffee you get, well, you can fill it up in 10 drinks, and then you exchange that for a fruit smoothie. That same drink that Ms. Waldron said I would be entitled to had I been a veteran. Well, I'm a veteran, not of the armed forces. Enough of the card.
What did you just throw over here, Bill?
The Coffee Cat Espresso Bar frequent flyer card.
Do you have to go through a background check to get a flyer card?
Wait, Jesse, let me do that. You're the star of the show. I'll fix the drinks.
Yes, you should get a card.
It's tape.
Yeah, you're on, Larry.
No, but I mean, it's tape. It's not.
Well, what happened recently? Wasn't there an election? There was an election. I mean, it's sort of blurry to me, but I sort of remember something about that, Bill.
Viewers, I just got to tell you, this concept, this Coffee Cat live stream, relatively new. So there's very little production value in the show. Our technical director is basically the show. He won't come over here and talk to you, but he's the show in a nutshell. So again, there's very little. What's the word I'm looking for, technical director?
With what?
What's the phrase I'm looking for?
Spontaneous?
Spontaneity in the show.
Content driven.
It's content driven, yet we have no content to bring to you today.
But we do. We had an election.
It was just
All
mentioned
right.
to me that we just recently had a national election in which the United States of America has a new president-elect by the name of Donald.
What's his name? You can't even say it, can you?
Donald Trump.
Okay.
Donald Trump. And I can say it because I can.
You can? But isn't he? He's not the president. He's the president-elect, though, right?
He's the president-elect.
Right. How's that work? When's he go into office? Bill?
Well, though I do have a degree in political science, I cannot tell you exactly how that transition works. I believe, though, that is January 20th or 21st will actually be sworn in, take the oath of office. He did meet with President Obama yesterday, which
Apparently that went pretty
It
good.
went very well. It was
Well.
intended to be a 15, 20-minute meeting, and it ended up being an hour and a half for Donald Trump, courtesy of Fox and Friends this morning. So I think, given all that, I think so far so good. So that's the end of that content.
But we're actually in a transition period right now on 11/11/16.
We're always in a transition period. All right. But I think that's the end of that content.
But I think that White Buffalo has an opinion on this. On this election.
Yeah, the Wicked Witch is dead.
Well,
Yeah,
what's that mean?
Hillary, she's gone. She's dead. Her next step should be she's probably going to prison, special prosecutor for the Clinton.
Well,
renovation.
isn't that what Trump said?
Yeah. Clinton
No, he said
renovation.
he would he's gonna have a what? How do you think that's gonna pan out? And maybe we'll have some predictions here. You think he's actually gonna stick to what he said? He's gonna have a special prosecutor appointed or something like that, if I remember correctly?
Should.
You think so?
I didn't hear him say it.
Well, I sort of remember him saying
Okay,
that. He
well-
said a lot of things. What do you remember that
said
he
a lot
said
of things.
that
The
he's
wall's
gonna
getting 10
do?
foot higher. I remember him saying that during the debates. The wall just got 10 feet high.
Well, good point. I didn't hear that in any news broadcast so far.
You know, the animals on the ground migrate.
Right, they can't migrate.
I know. So that's kind of screwed up.
I think the geese will
What
still
about
fly
his
over it.
Canadian friend? I mean, what about your Canadian friend? How's he going to come over to see you?
Well, she's going to marry me eventually. And
You know,
she's
she's
gonna
going to be
become
able
a
to
US
see this
citizen.
video too. After. Yeah, all right.
She's gonna,
You want to ask her here
In
live
fact,
stream?
she could be watching it right now. For all
she's
you
at a
know.
hockey game right now.
Well, how do we know?
Well, that's unusual for
With
a
a
Canadian,
friend.
isn't it? Oh, with a friend.
Yeah.
Do you know do you know the gender or
No,
species
I don't
of this
know, but
friend?
I'm gonna watch the hockey game tonight because they show people in the audience and see who's sitting next to her.
That sounds like fishing
Right.
for a needle in a haystack,
Yeah.
WB. But it's something to do, right?
Yeah.
It's a way to kill 3 hours tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if I remember, Larry, you were a Trump supporter, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Way back when the coffee bean.
what excites you about this? So you were happy to see him win.
Yeah. Yeah.
What,
Yeah.
Could you tell us specifically why you were such a strong Trump supporter? I remember, Larry, right from the beginning.
Because I was a strong anti-Clinton.
Oh, so
No,
why would that be? No, I just want to know for the record
she's
why.
dirty, she's evil. She's got blood on her hands. The Clintons have blood on her hands. She's corrupt. She's phony. She's a liar. She was only in it for herself. She wasn't in it for the people. She was only in it for personal power. You know. She's just a phony, corrupt, evil, and she's a shapeshifter.
She's a shapeshifter. I heard about that, right?
I watch her eyes; they turn into lizard eyes.
She's a reptilian
Lizard eyes.
then.
Yeah.
Is that you contend she's a reptilian?
Yes.
I've heard that
Yeah,
before.
yeah. They live underneath the earth. No, deep down in the caves.
Do you think so when she turns in at night she actually goes under the earth?
No, when she's
Do you think when she, goes to bed she actually goes under the earth then?
I don't know, but I'm just saying.
So it seems like you were a big Trump supporter because you were against Hillary.
I want to Trump anyways.
Oh,
He's a
well,
smart-
but why?
he's a
I'm just
smart
trying to
man.
understand
he's
it.
a
I'm
smart-
not
he's a
judging, I'm
smart
just
man.
trying to
He's a
understand.
businessman, he's smart, and he's had some failures, but not all.
Who hasn't?
Yeah, right.
Do you agree with everything he has said? What don't you
I want
agree
you
about
over there.
Trump?
Huh?
Oh, I just said something.
There she goes again. It's all right. You didn't affect it.
I saw that. Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
What happened?
Well, someone's phone's ringing.
That's Jesse's.
Okay, well, this is Patty Waldron who just
Phone's
came
ringing, Greg.
into the picture. So, go ahead, Patty. I mean, how do you feel about it, Patty? I mean,
To be honest with you, we didn't have the right candidates, and she lost the election all by herself.
all by herself. She didn't need help losing that election, did she?
No.
Don't I remember you saying she should have won this blindfolded and handcuffed?
Yeah, and
What do
with
you
shackles.
What do you think went wrong?
I think her voice just started to annoy people,
Right?
and her suits probably a little bit too.
Right, those suits. It's sort of like space suits.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
And you know, maybe if she
Maybe
said
she's
less,
from space.
she might have won.
Well, is that where you think it went wrong? What do you think about the felonious activity that she
I think
allegedly has
I think that
participated
America
in?
has elected a lot of people that with, you know, it didn't help her, obviously, but she lost her soul somewhere. I believe she was a true activist at one
She
point.
never had one.
She did. I believe she used to have one, Larry. Way back in the day when she was fighting for kids. I don't know. She lost her soul along the way, I feel.
Communist.
Because I
Way
couldn't
back.
feel any emotion. She was a non-emoter.
You know what that? She hides behind the word progressive, but progressive is
No, she took
liberalism.
the progressive from Bernie, let's
No,
be honest.
No, progressive. She said herself she's a progressive Democrat. That progressive is just a word that they use, the socialists use. to
We
hide
watched her
behind.
take
It sounds-
the
it sounds
progressive word
better.
from Bernie.
Yeah.
She definitely hijacked that.
So, she's a communist.
What do you think, Bill?
A communist.
What am I really thinking at this moment? Right now, at this very moment, I'm thinking, why am I even sitting up here? I got WB and Patty Waldron taking care of this content, and I'm just taking oxygen.
Taking
I'm
oxygen.
just absorbing oxygen.
Well, how do you
And,
feel about it? I mean, everybody has to have a feeling
quite
about
frankly,
it.
I'm just happy the entire process is over.
But hasn't it just begun, Bill?
Well, one manner of speaking,
Hey, Jesse,
I
we
guess
need
it
you
has
in on
just
this
begun.
conversation.
And it is Veterans Day, by the way, and we
Yes.
have a veteran that that
And
we
we're
know
gonna-
well.
Can we go back and ask Jesse this question too? You know, he's a good Democrat like myself,
I'm a party man. I'm a
right?
party man.
What do you think happened to Hillary?
Loss of integrity. There was a lot of questions raised about
Yeah,
that.
totally.
Definitely was not a good year for an establishment candidate. You know, you had Bernie Sanders, who really
Another communist.
who really had a major impact in the beginning, and she couldn't carry over his supporters.
What about the protesters? What do you feel about that right now? Yeah,
I mean, that's happening right now as
yeah,
we
but
speak, right?
I mean, how do you feel about
We
that?
can't burn down our own cities. We should at least wait for him to do something wrong before we pick up arms.
No, I completely agree with you. Give the guy a chance now, everybody.
Yeah, he won.
He
Can't
won.
say he didn't win. Rural
Against
America-
all odds.
yeah, rural America.
Well, against the polls. I mean, what happened here? All the polls, at least that I saw.
Against all odds, thank you, Ms. Waldron, for saying that. Earlier this evening, earlier this afternoon, earlier this morning, at some point, I started to wonder, what were the odds, what were the future odds in Las Vegas have been for Donald Trump to become the President of the United States prior to the Republican primary?
Right.
What would the future odds have been? 10,000 to 1? 20,000 to 1? I watched some Barclay Premier British League Soccer on the weekends, and I know last year's champion was a 5,000 to 1 underdog before the season started. They won, so
So somebody made
so
some money
somebody-
on this.
someone-
The bookies
if
were busy
anybody's
too, I
watching
bet.
this, and I know that many of you are, either live or you're going to watch the tape version. Let us know. Let us know what the future odds, the futures were, betting prospect of Donald Trump winning the presidential election before he actually started after he announced that he was a candidate for the Republican primary. Thank you.
So after he won the primary.
No,
What
I
the
don't
odds
know
were.
before, because when the Republican primary started, there were 17, 20 potential candidates.
There was actually some
They had to
pretty
have
good candidates
two
in that
sets
mix,
of
too.
debates to house
Right.
them all. So he was one of those 20. At that point, I want to know, when everyone looked at all the candidates, what were the odds of Donald Trump at that point becoming the president of the United States? The future odds in Las Vegas.
I want to
You
know
know
the
what?
day
I
before the
remember-
election what the odds were.
I remember.
It's
I
going,
remember
we
when.
can. Our viewers can research all this.
Right.
I remember
They're far
when.
more techno savvy than I am.
Yeah, please post the answers in the comment section here, by the way, folks. We would
Does
appreciate it.
anybody remember where they were when they heard Donald Trump's name for president? I mean, it's one of those. It was kind of a shock, but I remember it was like fun. You know, I thought it was funny. Like he wasn't really going to do this for real. He's an entertainer, and then it ended up being very serious. And
I
it was
don't
like-
think he expected to make it as far as
I don't
he did,
think he
much
did
less
either.
win.
he's pinching himself right now. Like, holy.
I think he's definitely had like reality set.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm
reality show setting.
I was kind of holding out on the panel here earlier. I'm actually quite excited about it because I think that now we have a chance to see some real change if everyone stands up and can deliver what they said they were going to deliver. I think there's a chance for some change, and I think we're in need of some change. And I think that's a huge reason why Donald Trump is now our president, because he sold people on this idea of change. So.
I don't know. I read an article and it said that Donald Trump conned all of America. He's a con man. What do you think? Is he a con man, or is he?
With you,
is he good? I don't know. I mean, I'm not.
Can I say something on this? Like, because
please.
I know I felt offended for the uneducated white voter. We had to hear that 10,000 times.
Do we have any uneducated white voters here?
Well, I'm just saying those are the
rural
meat
people.
Meat and potatoes of this country,
without
the
college
hard-working
degrees.
folk
Right.
that got tired of
Lady
hearing.
said without college degrees.
Right.
Yeah, but
Isn't that kind
now,
of
if a white person
patronizing?
said
How's that? Doesn't
was
that
coming
feel
from a
sort
black
of?
Democratic lady? If a white person had said that uneducated black people vote for, they'd be hung by a tree.
I don't know if it was the uneducated.
No, I think
white
Hillary
movement.
said that
I think
at
it
one
was the
point, in
secret
fact.
voter who cared.
Back in-
I think there was a lot of secret black Republicans. I think there was a lot of women
The
Trump
closet
supporters
Trumps.
that didn't come out, but they voted.
Yeah, and you know what about Donald? He's not owned. He's not owned. He's not.
I should
nobody
let
owns him.
somebody else weigh in.
Yeah, we do. I mean, this is open, and we're not. We're not going by. I mean, I guess that's one thing. We need him up here. We need him up here.
We need to hear from the youth.
So, you just introduce yourself and where you're from, and she's just.
Are we broadcasting this?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a live stream. You'll be able to see it after.
What platform is it?
But we're talking about the Trump and.
Is it on Facebook? Facebook?
No, it's on YouTube, and there'll be a link that I'll post later for
Here, you sit
Facebook
here.
to go to.
I want you up front and center. Bill.
Okay,
Bill's gonna ask
see ya,
questions.
Larry.
Hi, Larry. This is Jesse and Bill.
Hello.
Am I still? Is it a delay or what?
No, you're live, man.
Yeah, I mean that's the live stream you're watching. On
So
the
my name is
screens.
Michael. I'm a student here at SUNY Plattsburgh. I live in the city of Plattsburgh. I study finance and economics. I consider myself a libertarian, and I campaign for Dr. Colin Reed's campaign for the mayoral race here in Plattsburgh. What are we talking about specifically?
Well, it's open. I think that the topic at hand was about the election, how people are feeling about that. Maybe, I mean,
Yeah,
or you can bring up a topic of your own. I mean,
The most
and
concerning-
those who don't know Colin Reed, he just won the mayoral election here in Plattsburgh, New York, and our new friend here did campaign for him. So what did
That's right.
what did that look like?
So I got involved with canvassing, going door to door to people who were registered Democrats in order to, make sure that they understood his platform, and gauge whether or not they were supporters of his candidacy. Some of the things, the reason that I didn't look at the election from a partisan perspective at all. I actually didn't even consider what party he was a part of. I was just looking at the individual issues. It's a very pivotal point in the local government here because Plattsburgh is working on the proposal for the $10 million grant, and I support Dr. Reed because of his experience with economics, his expertise in economic planning, his ideas for what to do with the $10 million grant in particular is to get more feedback from the citizens, get them involved in the decision, and also to consider not just building infrastructure that could potentially not get filled, but because we have storefronts, to actually get businesses into the existing storefronts rather just assuming like if you build it they will come. So that was what was appealing to me about his candidacy.
The notion that there's a plan,
If you want to be involved,
some semblance of a plan.
Well, they were, the city had proposed that big, complex, that shopping center, wherever that I'm not actually 100% sure where that was supposed to go in. There's a vacant parking lot. Is that the one right here downtown? You know.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there are a lot of things that Dr. Reed considers that I think a lot of people in like the local government wouldn't consider, such as advanced capital planning. I spoke to him one time and he discussed how the city should start to plan now to replace the waste treatment plant. It's going to be on a timeline of like 30 years or so, and eventually recapture that space, or even now cover it, cap all of the volatile emissions that are coming off, and even like build a park over it. That's an idea that was being considered. But ultimately, we want to recapture that waterfront prime real estate in the city, recapture that for something, and to move that waste treatment plant in like the swamp back behind the Georgia Pacific.
Well, that's a good segue about draining the swamp. I think that's something that. And then so how do you feel? You're very involved in local politics. It sounds, and your
Right.
and your guy won.
So I think
how about that? Let's translate that to the thing that just happened nationally.
So in the national election, from my perspective, I supported Gary Johnson, the Libertarian candidate, because I want to see the Libertarian Party start to get more political viability. When polled on the issues, 65% of Americans believe in libertarianism, but the problem is that those ideas get perverted when they're integrated into the two-party system. I got involved in this live stream.
And you're on a live stream
politics.
too. You can be like, oh, come sit down. You sure? Okay, all right. So maybe you could, as they say in the country, or the school us on what this. It's been a while for me. We've been in a partisan, a dialectic.
Yeah, I like to call it a duopoly. So
Right,
I study economics and finance in school, and a duopoly is when you have only two choices. When there's a competitive market, everyone's familiar with a monopoly, which is one choice, but a duopoly is when there's the illusion of choice, but
Right.
it's two firms that are basically more similar than dissimilar.
Right.
So libertarianism is socially liberal and fiscally conservative. So they don't really care about that we want to legalize drugs, legalize gay marriage.
Well, you say they don't care, but do they have a stance on that? You
Yeah,
say they don't.
legalize
So they do
it.
care. They don't not care.
Well,
They care that
don't
those
care
things
As if you, okay, so what I mean by don't care is I don't want to empower the government to impose my morality on
Gotcha.
you. So I don't care what you do socially as an individual.
Right.
I think that you're empowered to make the
Basic
decision.
tenet of
Happy Veterans Day.
Libertarianism.
libertarianism is that every person should be allowed to live their life as they want to live, provided that they're not harming anyone else, society, the environment. Just leave me alone. Just let me do my thing. Let me contribute my own way.
Yeah,
And,
sort of like the pursuit of happiness. You mean? Sort of as an inalienable right. So it sort of is that part.
well,
With the focus on freedom, is that what I'm trying to discern it. I'm trying to.
Yeah,
focus
so-
on choice to live as you want to live, provided you're not harming someone else or the environment
Exactly.
or so on and so forth.
So the
It's about choice.
basic premise, there's two basic premises of libertarianism which their policies are built off of. It's the non-aggression principle and the idea of self-ownership. So everything is basically built off of those two ideas. So that's a really good place to start. Self-ownership is I own myself as an individual, and therefore by extension I own my time and my work and the products of my labor. So most libertarians, it's like a libertarian buzzword or buzz phrase that taxation is theft, and they throw it around all the time.
Right.
Because you own the product of your labor, and what we do as a society is empower the government to take that from you by coercion.
As a percentage of whatever you say you own your labor, but they sort of as the casinos use the term, rake a certain percentage off of every transaction, right?
But that's the libertarian ideal. So, like, libertarianism believes in like a minimal government, but like getting rid of agencies and
well, that's a very Republican thing, ironically, isn't it?
Getting rid of the tax code is so low on the priority list that we wouldn't effectively make that happen anytime soon. So the higher things are end interventionist foreign policy and stop restricting some social.
Where do they get their money as a government then? I just trying to understand.
Well, you don't need as much money because the government would be smaller, and through different forms of taxation that are services that you receive.
Yeah, so taxation with representation.
Went out of the mainstream in the 1800s, but there are elements of that are still around in trade deals, like where you. So in economics, you know that if you trade with someone, you're both better off for having engaged in that trade. And trade deals are this weird thing where you try to like take advantage of the country you're trading with, instead of understanding that there's mutual benefit.
Right, interesting. So a lot of deconstructing and tearing down of what exists now. Even internationally, I think people are used to being so competitive, and this mercantile merchants, and this is how all these things started, right? I mean, it was the money.
Yeah,
and it wasn't the Boston Tea Party happened about because why? Well, they were being taxed even from an offshore government. That's right, right.
Yeah.
So that's good. Well, interesting. Do you think that we're going to see a lot more libertarianism?
Well, as a result of this election, after this election, libertarians had to do a lot of footwork to even get on the ballot. So a lot of their political capital was used up just trying to get on the ballot in all 50 states. Now they've received enough votes to automatically be on the ballot in 27 states.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They didn't reach the 5% nationally to get federal funding, unfortunately. And I think it's because a lot of people because the race was so close, a lot of people fell into the wasted vote logical fallacy.
Right. Yeah, I had to look it up, and maybe a lot of people looked it up and learned something with what happened. Good about it.
I don't know this young lady. Why don't you know me? I know.
What?
What
Well,
doesn't know you.
The birthing moments of this, and
How often do you plan on doing it?
Every day.
Every
day. Hopefully, we'll do this, and
Cool.
and folks in the audience are seeing this either live or will see it from the archives. Every one of these sessions will be put out into the archives automatically. I don't really have to do anything.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing how this works. So please come in with your topics, and you could even just whatever topic it is, local topics, national, international, metaphysical, whatever.
Cool.
We're open. We're going to let this produce itself, and we're not going to have any script. And so and we're really interested. I'm really interested in the younger generations here, aka the millennials, right? Is that what they call you guys? I don't know, right? Sure, millennials. What do you consider yourself?
An individual?
Your generation.
Yeah,
no, you are. You're a libertarian. You're an
A
individual, right?
millennial is fine.
Yeah, it's good. I don't know.
I consider myself just a human being.
I don't remember generation ever being called anything, but we were the baby boomers' children, I guess.
I think they called you guys the lost generation.
Yeah, that's
really?
maybe why I don't know. I was
Yeah.
lost. We had no real purpose as a generation. So what do you say if you were going to say what the thrust of your generation is? What do you think history will
Remember,
remember? And I want you to just project. Project.
Well, we're the lost generation's children, so we're
Right.
two generations of lost. We're so lost we can't find our way out of anything.
Right.
They're the indigo children.
Well, explain that. I just sort of heard that coming ahead of it. Patty, why don't you explain what the Indigo Children are to the Indigo Children?
Well, I feel that the Indigo Children's are the ones that were sent to, that have wisdom beyond their years. So if you want to say old souls, restless souls, the ones who defy authority because they can see through it immediately. So they might look like rebels, but because of their keen sense of awareness and to be able to look through authority, and I don't mean to the next extreme, although sometimes that happens. I mean, just because you have one bad policeman doesn't mean they are all bad. You know, it means that they see that they just have an inner knowing of their environment, their surroundings, their
Right.
teachers, and they can't help it. They just know.
They just know. Their eyes are open.
Yes.
They're awake. They were born
I have
awake.
read this Indigo Children.
You know, and I'd give you another there. You know, some
Would you
people would
kind
say
of
the
agree
Jacob
that,
generation.
the millennials might be more of some indigo children in there.
Maybe more than typical, but not a majority. I don't think. What do you think?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Where are you from?
I'm from Queens, New York City.
Queens?
Yep.
Did you find your way to Plattsburgh because you're in school?
Yeah.
Did you already have this conversation when I was making drinks?
No.
Maybe the cat had something to do with it.
Oh yeah. Do you want to take her back?
This is
If
the.
you don't mind giving her back
No,
up
I don't.
again,
Oh, this-
it's really a
thi-
nice token because, you know,
There
the
seems to
coffee
be a
cat is
very.
made from people.
Yeah.
It's
of
made from
course.
people. Sort of constructed by people. Sort of libertarian, everybody, but there's another side of that. We're individuals, but we're part of the whole community and part of the whole country and part of the whole
Yeah.
world, right?
So,
So
yeah.
there's a balance between are we individuals,
Right.
you know, and then the rest of the world.
One of the most beautiful things about studying economics is how you can act as a self-interested individual. Like you don't have to take the externalities, the external consequences of your decisions into account, because in aggregate, when you look at markets, you can study it like it's its own thing. Like a market is a creature that obeys
It's sort of
laws.
a living-
It's an
living
extension
creature.
of natural laws. There's like a
Right.
lot of the same mathematics that explains the physical sciences applies to economics. So you can be greedy, but still, while you're being greedy as an individual, still participate in an order that is the most efficient and equitable way to distribute wealth.
Do you think Donald Trump was a libertarian in a, you know, a closet libertarian by knowing that if he made all this money and was accumulating it,
I think he
that
has
was
a
good?
respect for capitalism and
Right.
free market economics. I think that I've read through some of his 100 points that he wants to achieve during the first 100 days of being in office, and about half of them are good. You know, I think that's
What comes to your mind of the three good points you made, and then the three ones that are not good from your? I haven't read this list,
the
so I'm
three
interested.
best out of what I've seen so far. Probably to end term limit, or yeah, to enact term limits.
Enact or end?
To enact term limits.
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
Yep, for Congress. He wants to end certain. So he has a 5-year restriction on lobbying when public officials leave office. Some of his like starting trade wars type policies are garbage.
Well, explain that. That's interesting to me. Starting trade wars.
Yeah. So
What's that look like?
I don't really. Where do I get started?
Well, there's a cliff notes. I mean, in a paragraph, how would you explain what starting trade
So
wars?
he wants the United States of America. So he has a directive to order the Treasury of the United States to label China as a trade manipulator, and that's just not. I can't, like. You don't want to. China has 1 billion people.
They got a lot of people.
If we start a trade war with China right now, we will not win that trade war. It's just
No, in fact, it's sort of like we're already losing that trade war.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of debt on our part to them.
Yeah, it's complex.
But he wants to start a new one and win it? Is that what you're saying, instead of losing it?
He doesn't acknowledge that he's starting a trade war at all, but I would argue that's what he's doing.
But you said one of the points he made, or
Is
things
to-
out of his,
yeah.
he wants to start one.
Yeah, effectively that's what it is.
Right.
He hasn't really called it that.
So I'm sorry to interrupt, but that was number 2, wasn't it, of your things
Of the
that
worst,
you didn't,
yeah.
the worst 3.
And then the third one, I don't.
You don't even have to take it off that list, but think, why don't you say, what's the number 1 worst thing that you believe
Well, I'm trying to
about-
decide between building the wall and leaving the Paris Climate Change Agreement as the third.
Wow, right.
So I
Well,
can't
what do you
decide.
think about, that's kind of, is he, I didn't know about that. He wants to just leave that all, doesn't worry too much about the
Yeah.
environment.
He wants to make America energy independent through clean coal.
Well, we could go back to the Industrial Revolution, start to have a lot of smoke in there, couldn't we?
Right.
Right, coal. It's kind of toxic, isn't it? I think the indicator species frogs grow a lot of extra legs and
Yeah.
appendages when that's around.
Yeah.
So do you think he's dangerous?
Okay, so
I mean, is there
someone-
danger?
Yeah, definitely. So someone that I follow on YouTube, his name is Tom Scott. He has an awesome channel on YouTube. You're watching on YouTube right now, you should check it out. It's Tom Scott. He does a series called Things You Might Not Have Known or something like that. And he was filming a series in America. He's British. And before he started that series, he wanted to address the election because he felt like he couldn't just post a video about while being in America and not address this. So his first video in that series is just an open letter to American people. And British people have a unique perspective because they just went through something similar.
Brexit.
Right. So he put it this way. Not everyone who voted for Donald Trump is a bigot, but all bigots voted for Donald Trump. So those people who are racist, sexist, have xenophobia, anti-Islamic sentiments, feel validated. So they feel like the country is validating their hate. So they're gonna feel empowered. They're gonna get more. So hate crimes are likely to increase.
Sort of
And that's
like
where the
as if
danger-
Archie Bunker's candidate would have won, he'd be like, I told you so, and he agrees with me and I agree with him, which isn't really the case, as this Tom Scott says, right?
Yeah, so that's the danger in electing Trump. Some people made that was my perspective. Some people that I've spoken to recently who feel threatened more so than I do as a white male have said that you have to believe in everything that the candidate stands for. So they're not really allowing people to get away with that whole a vote for Trump doesn't mean you're a bigot. It's like
That's
part
right,
of the whole
but it
package.
gets back to this duopoly thing that you were explaining full circle to
Right.
the start of it, right? I mean, you didn't.
I think that my counter was when you poll American people on the issues, 65% of Americans agree with libertarianism, and that's what I want. So if that were the case, let's say that everyone voted with the premise that you have to believe everything that a candidate stands for,
Then nobody could vote for
No, we
anyone.
would have elected a libertarian as president.
I understand what you're saying, right? Because the libertarian viewpoint encompasses actually the agreement of 65% of the voters out there.
Like
right?
I'm a Democrat with Republican tendencies. The other way around is Republican with Democratic tendencies.
So, which
would be
the most effective way to characterize your political ideals is called the Nolan chart, and it's a two-way political axis. Instead of just right and left, it's liberal, conservative, and then has a whole nother axis, which is big government, small government,
Right,
or sometimes
interesting.
small government's on top, small government, big government. So my question to you is, in which ways do you relate to Democrats and which ways do you relate to Republicans? Like, are you socially liberal and
I'm
fiscally
socially
conservative?
liberal and fiscally conservative.
So you would be a libertarian then?
Right. That's what
That's
I
the
was saying,
definition
right?
of libertarianism.
Well, I think that, your generation
Welcome
spoken
to
through the
libertarianism.
spokesman, the individual for the spokesman, if echoing the
I was elected
feelings,
as a Democrat.
right? She was elected as a Democrat.
But my slogan was a Democrat Republicans can vote for.
Cool.
And I'll just stand outside
Which
the
means
system and
libertarian.
absorb. None of the above at some point in
No,
time,
you're a
right?
libertarian too.
I don't know. I mean, I
If
like
you had
that.
run, so I would argue that you're a libertarian, and that. But the problem is, if you had ran as a libertarian, everyone would have said what?
Right. Well, there's other things that come into play that you can't. That's why there is no one party for any individual unless you really. I mean, who feels the same way about there
Everything.
being a
Wide variety.
philosophy to things?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not an anti-union person. So, that's not a Republican issue.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think this moving out to nonpartisan and not buying into the system as it stands is probably I think that's where the vote for Trump came from. Anything different than what's going on is good, is better than what's going on.
Yeah, I kind of, at first, I thought that the idea that Trump was an anti-establishment candidate was illegitimate, but now that I am actually taking more time to investigate his platforms, I'm realizing that there is some credibility to that perspective. Like the ending term limits, the banning, the lobbying, imposing term limits and the lobbying ban are anti-establishment policies.
Right. Are you hopeful about the future, or do you see it getting sort of worse on a global, international, and as a country? How do you see your future? How do you think your friends and your peers and your people your age, if you were to speak generally about, you know more. You're with your people all day.
I think a lot
right?
of people see this as a setback, a step in the wrong direction. I like to be as optimistic as I can. Like I hope. So I think that Trump was to some extent playing the game and catering to his fan base, and that he won't be as bad as we fear.
Do you think the rest of the, and just as an aside here, do you think the rest of the, as far as the way the government structure is, which should have checks and balances, one we would assume, right? And do you think they're going to be able to hold the bad stuff, or what, the things
Right.
we all fear, and we know what they are, that he would start a war or
I don't know.
whatever, who knows? But there's a sense of the unknown that he might be sort of a hair trigger. And
Right.
do you think the rest of the government's going to be able to hold him back?
I
Stuff.
I don't know the answer to that question, and personally, I'm not taking much time to make up my mind because let's just assume the worst. And my responsibility as an individual is to double down on my civic duty and stay informed and to write letters to my representatives, and I'm going to do that regardless. I'm just going to plan for the worst and expect the best.
But it's not going to stop you from participating as a citizen and your
No,
responsibility.
I'm more energized than I have been,
which is interesting,
ever in my, as far as my political activity.
I mean, sometimes you need an adversary in life, I suppose, to sharpen you, and give you some energy, right?
So
Because
I've been reading a lot about this perspective, which is like the virtue of war, and it's this perspective that in peacetime, like pacifism has a lot of downsides. So war is a crucible in which men. It's mostly like a masculine perspective. Men are forced to be virtuous. So, like, the enemy is coming. You've got to do something about it. You have to have grit, determination, perseverance, and all these positive attributes. That's a bad way to achieve those.
Yeah, that's a pretty bad
virtues,
way to do
right?
it. But right, it's
But
that. Right.
it forces you to have those virtues. So how can we achieve that during peacetime? So that's a really interesting argument. And it ties into a perspective that I had that maybe this will be a kick in the pants for America, and we can't predict how this is going to pan out. This might like energize a lot of people to start making some bipartisan changes to make our system more
Equitable.
representative.
Yeah, representative. Right. And that's interesting. And I mean, you sort of want to just protect. I mean, you say wartime. I understand. I mean, that's a good point. I mean, it's a bad thing, obviously, but the virtues come out. But I think, just personally myself, I feel like I want to protect people around me now. But it's not like I want to go protect by offense. I mean, I feel like just, to be protective as a virtue in peacetime to prevent wartime. But so I think it can happen in peacetime. I think there's, the reach toward, virtue, if you will.
It's just that whole thought exercise about war is just to understand that comfort. We're always seeking comfort, but it enables us to kind of be soft and weak and lazy and apathetic and not.
I don't know in the Maslow's hierarchy. I don't know where comfort is on there, but
Well, it's after you achieve some of the first steps, right?
Right.
So after you have food and safety and everything like that, a lot of people aren't. That's where people stop. They're not pursuing self-actualization because there's no cause to do that.
You say then they get lazy because they have those, food, shelter.
The first three tiers are provided, or they achieved, and then they don't continue up the chain.
Sometimes I feel like I've fallen off the top of Maslow's ladder back to the beginning. I mean, it's like that's. Yeah, it's good. It's good to go. It's certainly a cycle, and that's right. Well, we appreciate you very much.
Thanks.
And we, this, you're a seed for this, and we, if you're hearing me speak, please come in, and we will put you on no matter what your feelings are, because we are, individuals. What comes to mind is everyone is both your teacher and your student. And I think that your generation sort of is getting a lot that took our generation a long time in general to see, because they had those things provided for. So they did get kind of lazy. Now I think you do need that, that contention of something that you need to be get you better, sharpening your tool, and everybody's sharpening their tools now. I mean, Abraham Lincoln said if I had 8 days to chop down a tree, I'd spend 7 days sharpening the axe, right?
Is that Abe or George?
Well, right, and George chopped the cherry tree down with Abe's axe or something. It went backwards, I think so. Yeah, I don't know. I guess we could Google it like everything else, but come in and see us. And your name again? Mike. Irene gave the coffee cat a cat. If you want to come see the cat, you can come see the cat. And if you want to see Patty, she's always smiling. And not always. Trust me, I'm married to her, so.
Oh yeah.
I'm not always smiling either. Well, we love you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Over now.
Wow, that was really great.